So now we have understood in brief, no, earlier that there was a standard which was followed by the countries, that is before World War One, which was known as gold standard, which is a rigid version of fixed exchange rate system. Okay, gold standard is a rigid version of fixed exchange rate system. Okay, so we will understand in brief what is gold standard. You can note also. See, gold standard means what? In gold standard system, all countries fixed their value of currency in terms of specified amount of gold or linked their currency to that of the country which did so. Simple logic. In gold standard, what was the basis for determining the value of the currency? Specified amount of gold. Okay, so currency was linked to gold. Okay, so domestic currencies were freely convertible into gold at a fixed price. So very interesting, just understand. So 1 rupee you can say will be equal to, for example, you can take it as at that time it can be 5 grams of gold, like that, and gold price will be used for converting the currencies. Okay, so if 1 USD is equal to 35 ounce of gold, so you can compare the gold and determine the exchange rate between the currencies. That was the gold standard. Okay, so in gold standard, everybody write and keep currency value was fixed in terms of gold. Okay, domestic currencies were convertible into gold at a fixed price, and there was no restriction on import and export of gold. Okay, so if some countries require gold, because you will require gold reserves, no, for maintaining the currencies. So there was no restrictions also on import and export of gold. So gold coins are circulated as domestic currency. Okay, obviously now if you're linking your currency to gold, means you can say that gold is also equal to your currency. Both are same thing, no? You have gold or currency. Both will be same only, because currency is ultimately linked to what? Gold. Understood? So as each currency was fixed in terms of gold, exchange rate between participating currencies were also fixed. Very simple, no? Rupee will be also fixed in terms of some gold weight. Other countries' currency will also be linked to gold. Okay. So now you know that when the right hand side is gold, you can compare the left hand side also. So like that you can determine the exchange rate of two currencies in gold standard. Okay. So just in brief understand, gold standard currency was linked to gold, and gold was also treated as currency only. Logical, no? Because if you are linking currency to gold, gold will also be a type of currency only. Okay, so gold coin circulated as domestic currency. See, it is given alongside coins and other metals and notes. Clear? So domestic currencies were freely convertible into gold at a fixed price, and this gold basis was used for fixing the two countries' exchange rate, because all countries' currencies was fixed to gold, so you can determine any country's exchange rate. Because if RHS is equal, you can compare or link the LHS also. Clear? See, as we have understood that classical gold standard existed from 1870 to outbreak of First World War in 1940. So this standard was prevalent only till 1940. We have already understood that till the First World War. After this, the gold standard was not followed by any country. Okay. So from 1870 to 1914 was the gold standard followed between the countries. So now gold standard is not prevalent in any country. So these are all history part. Okay, let us understand now how this standard used to work. Just now we have understood now under the gold standard, countries' money supply was linked to what? Gold. Very important. Underline and keep or write and keep can come in MCQ. Under gold standard, countries' money supply was linked to what? Gold. Clear? Under gold standard, countries' money supply was linked to gold. Okay. So see, you have to convert the gold currency into money into gold on demand. Okay, strictly limited to amount of fiat money in circulation. So simple logic was what? Country's money will be converted into gold, held as reserves by central bank. The central bank will keep the gold reserves. So earlier, no, a central bank should have a gold reserves. So based on that, the countries this will be determined. Currency in circulation will be determined. Most countries had legal minimum ratio of gold to notes or currency issued. Okay, so based on the gold reserves, currency to be issued will be determined. So that ratio will be fixed by country to country. Okay, so in short, gold was also equivalent to a currency. So under gold standard, you can say that gold was also equal to currency because you can convert the currency in terms of gold, and two countries currency was based on gold prices. So now we understood that gold standard was prevalent only till 1914. After that, this system was abolished by the country, and normally nowadays it is not followed by any country. Clear this much, everybody? So now let us understand flexible exchange rate. We have already discussed this. Flexible exchange rate in this system, exchange rate will be determined by twin market forces of demand and supply. And here exchange rate will be allowed to fluctuate freely. Clear? So in this flexible exchange rate system, two systems are there. One is the purchasing power parity theory and another is the interest rate parity theory. Clear? So these two systems are used for estimating the exchange rate in flexible exchange rate system. Okay. Now we have seen arguments for flexible exchange rate and disadvantages for the flexible exchange rate also we have understood. Now let us understand types of flexible exchange rate. So there are different types of flexible exchange rate. First type is the free float. So first type of flexible exchange rate is called as what? Free float. So free float means what? Free float exchange rate system is one that has no intervention from the government. Okay. So if a country is following the free float system of flexible exchange rate system, in that system, there will be no government intervention. Okay. If a country is following free float system, there will be no government intervention will not be there. Only demand and supply will determine the exchange rate. Clear? So if a country is following free float system of flexible exchange rate, in that case, there will be no government intervention. Purely currency value will be based on demand and supply forces. Okay. So we can naturally understand that under this mechanism, there will be high risk of volatility. Volatility means fluctuation. Obviously, because if we allow to fluctuate the currency only on demand and supply forces, so the rate will keep on changing frequently. So we can say that under free float, there will be high risk of volatility. Okay, one currency may appreciate or depreciate steeply, and the exchange rate is similarly affected. Okay, and this mechanism is called free float or clean float. Simple logic. So if free float, understand the concept. In free float, there will be no government intervention in exchange rate management. It will be determined by demand and supply forces. Okay, when we are saying that there will be no intervention of government, it will be only for exchange rate. Okay, other things will be monitored by government. Whether currency you are taking is for proper purpose or not, whether it is taken for prohibited transactions or not, all that legal things will be monitored by government. Only exchange rate will not be interfered by government. Okay, they will freely allowed to be determined. Okay, all other legal part, legal compliances, that is a separate thing that has to be followed. And in India, which act is monitoring the foreign exchange transaction? It is the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. We have discussed now. So this act, along with the various regulations, will give the regulatory aspect of foreign exchange. Okay. So government intervention in free float means exchange rate will be freely determined, but legal aspects will be always monitored by government. Okay, whether you are doing a prohibited transaction, etc. We have seen the penalty also, no? Under FEMA, it is 3 times the amount of contravention. Okay. So free float is also called as clean float and pure float. Underline and keep. So you can call a free float as clean or pure float also. Is a flexible exchange rate system solely determined by market force of demand and supply. Okay, there will be government intervention in exchange rate determination will be nil. Okay, for determining the exchange rate system, government intervention will be nil. Okay, clean floats are a result of laissez-faire or free market economics. So there are different types of economists. No? Some category of economists are called laissez-faire or free market economics. who say that there should be no government intervention. Everything should be determined by demand and supply forces or market factors. So government should least interfere in an economics. So such type of economists are called as laissez-faire economics. Okay. So they believe that government intervention should be nil in economic matters. Okay. So this free float concept is based on laissez-faire or free market economics. Okay. But in reality, almost none of the currencies of developed countries have clean float. So no country follow a clean float. Okay. Because every country have some degree of support from central bank, and so have managed float. See, one theory says that clean float means allow the foreign market to fluctuate freely based on demand and supply. That is based on which economics? Laissez-faire or free market economics. Those who believe that everything should move freely. There should be no government intervention in economic matters. But in reality, what happens? No country will follow the clean float. There will be some degree of intervention will be there from the corresponding central bank. Okay. And therefore, it will be called as manage the float. Okay. From free float, it is shifted to which float? Managed float. Okay. In managed float, currency will be based on demand and supply only, but there will be some intervention from the government or central bank. If there is some deficiency, they will take steps to correct. Okay. In fact, since most countries intervene in foreign exchange markets, to some extent, from time to time, it is called as managed floating system, because no country will leave anything to the market forces. There will be some amount of interference. Okay. Otherwise, what will happen if you leave everything freely? It is not possible. No? There will be some intervention from time to time. So it is called as managed floating system. Okay. So see, managed float. So this is a variation of what? Free float mechanism. All countries have trade links with one another. Okay. We know that there is international trade taking place because some countries may be having surplus of some product and some countries may be having deficiency of that product. So there will be international trade between two countries, exports and imports. Okay, and international currencies fluctuate daily. Okay, because based on demand and supply, currency value will fluctuate on a frequent basis, daily basis, you can say. Many countries of the world use float system to determine the exchange rate. So based on demand and supply, here government and central banks of the country intervene, okay, and help to set the exchange rates. Okay. Market force of demand and supply will determine the exchange rate, but central bank and government will intervene from time to time. So that is why it is called manage the float. Okay, we are managing the float. Okay, these authorities try to smooth out the fluctuations and volatility of the currencies. So this is called as managed float or dirty float. Understood? What is a managed float? What is a free float? Okay, see, a managed float or dirty float is a flexible exchange rate system only, in which the government or the country's central bank may occasionally intervene in order to direct the country's currency value in certain direction. So if there is some disorder or etc., then they will try to correct that deficiency by intervening in the market. Okay, this is generally done in order to act as a buffer against economic shocks and hence soften its effect on the economy. Okay, if there is an high variation in currency rates, then central bank may or government may intervene and take steps to correct it. It is known as managed flow. Normally, okay, normally exchange rate will be determined by demand and supply only. But in case of extreme volatility or fluctuations in currency, government or central bank may occasionally intervene. Okay, so they will keep that power with themselves. Okay, nobody will everything freely. No? Some control will be there by the government or central bank of that country. That is known as managed float or corrective float. Clear this much, everybody? Any confusion till now? Whatever we have discussed today. So I think we are stopping here today. We will continue further in the next class.